Hey, hey, Rambo.
Hey, hey.
How's it going?
Good. It's going good. Lots going on.
Yes, yes. And thankfully,
It
I
feels
am
like
back
it
in the
feels like it's been
mind space for
ages.
this stuff.
Feels like it's been ages.
I was gonna say that. It feels like we have not connected in a really long time. Well, we haven't. And I want to
A
say,
week. It was
I
like a
know, but
week
it feels
over
like
the yeah. A
it, it feels
couple of
like
days
there's
more.
been, and even the previous one. I mean, it's been like, it's been almost a month that the episode with my dog kind of kicked off, and I didn't have my head in the game for any of that. And first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for allowing a little bit of
Are you
extra.
feeling a bit more yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling more human now. I'm feeling more in my body. I'm feeling more connected to my feelings, which that's a good and a bad thing. My feelings had kind of overtaken me a little bit, and I felt overwhelmed by them. I didn't necessarily feel connected to the feelings. I just felt kind of swallowed up by them. But now, healing takes time. That's the
Does.
ingredient. That's the magical ingredient in this thing, in the equation, is time. Father Time needs to do his tedious, devious work, and it's really only been, I mean, each day felt a little different, and each day feels a little bit better. And, one day after the next day after the next day, I'm finally feeling back somewhat to myself. Yeah. So, anyway, thank you everybody for allowing me some time to not be in the game. To just, I wasn't in it. My mind wasn't there. But, I woke up this morning with a real starter pistol went pew when I got out of bed, and then I started reading about the Indian plane crash, and I was like, I'm
I got
thankful
that
I have some appetite for this right
through on my
now.
phone for some reason. It's one of those. It came to us here as one of those that flash up on everyone's note unless you turn off notifications, but I've never bothered. It just brings up as a news flash where it feels like you've got a text message
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you
I
look
bet
and it
because the plane was headed towards London. It was headed to London Gatwick Airport. So it's right local news for y'all, It was headed that way. Granted, it didn't make it very,
but
far
why
past
is it
the
always
the runway.
yeah, like, where is this place? It's somewhere in India, but it's like one of those places where no one can confirm or not confirm it even
Yeah.
happened.
Yes, it feels, and a lot of the media that I'm seeing out of this crash is very familiar with things that we have looked into with theatrics of war. I mean, it's being described. Let's see. I wrote down a few notes just from the news reporting. So a lot of the visual bystanders, what they're reporting, what they're noting is that they saw a plane sinking, what appeared to be a plane sinking in the sky, nose up, tail down. That's not, and then sinking lower. It disappeared beyond, the tree line. It disappeared beyond the horizon. They heard the sound of a blast, and then a ball of fire, and then black smoke billowing up in the distance. And that's really, people didn't
Have
see
you
a plane
seen the
crash.
video?
No.
So the video is, and it looks like a plane landing to me.
Yeah.
That's
And
what
they're
it looks
calling it
like.
sinking, the plane
But
sinking. I've
there
seen the
is a
word
video of it.
sinking, which is an interesting, that's just an interesting word to use about something in the sky. Sinking usually involves water, and a plane sinking isn't necessarily, a sinking in the sky isn't necessarily something we hear as a descriptor for that. So the word sinking just kept pinging bells. And we've kind of talked about this before. As you increase your altitude, the air up there acts a little differently. And there's like a buoyancy and density ratio that is just different than on the ground, similar to a buoyancy density ratio that is different than when you're in the water. The gravitational pull, whatever that is, it acts a little bit different. And so too in the sky, I think there's almost like a water element, like to how air is after a certain, in flying altitude. And really, you know, I mean, there's still a lot of unexplained about this crash.
I seen flaps mentioned again.
Yes, on the wing, on the flaps on the wing potentially malfunctioning. Also, the engines might have struck some birds. Some multiple birds might have been
Also,
swallowed up in those engines, those
it's
twin
the
engines.
most safe. It's the safest plane apparently, and it's
This,
the
yeah, first time.
first one to ever do
Yeah,
it, ever
a
crash.
787 Dreamliner has never been involved in a crash of this magnitude before. And they're actually categorizing it as something called a total hull loss, HULL. Hull is the most significant portion of the plane. And if that's, you know, a catastrophic loss, there's a very significant, basically a 787 has never had this type of disaster where the plane itself is so far beyond repair that they have to deem it as a total hull loss. It's basically what they call like a total when if your car gets totaled. The cost of the damages, you know,
A
are
write off.
far more. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically a write off, and it's just a way for the insurance. You know, it's just a way to take an old junky
But
plane
have you
and
seen the
get
pictures
an
of it then
insurance
as well? Like
payout.
people have sat on it and everything already.
The debris pictures are kind of interesting because on one hand, you'll see some picture of total char where everything in the scene is blackened out, like there's no discernible aircraft, which is, you know, we have noted that on a lot of these plane crashes, like where's that damn plane? You know, the plane's pretty big. Where is it? It's just destruction and bombed out cars. Where's the plane? And so there's a few of those, but there's also, I just took a screenshot and I'm going to share it on Discord after our call, but of like comically large debris, like the full paneled logo side just happens to be like fully intact. Kind of like this reminds me of something
So
that
you could see it was an Air India.
yes, exactly. It reminds me of the wreckage from the Ocean Gate, the Titan sub that went down, and it was deemed total annihilation, complete and utter decomposition of all material at that depth. It just disintegrated, is what they told. And then we saw the wreckage being pulled up, and the side of the hull, you know, again the hull, the side of the craft with the Ocean Gate logo just happened to be perfectly intact. And it's like, okay, what are the odds of that? Odds are 100%. But it feels there's some similarities. I mean, it's a completely different story.
A story
Yeah.
I see, what they always seem to do is how many like different nationalities are involved. So like
Well,
this is now
we
a
got
global
yes, there's
tragedy.
one Canadian, I think 169 Indian, some other category that I
Some
didn't.
from the 53 UK, the
Yeah, oh,
same.
that's right. That's right. And that's probably why it's an incident that's being broadcast through y'all's phones because they're, you know, and that does make it local. That makes it feel local. And of course, you know, the headlines are no survivors presumed, all presuming everyone dead. And we don't have any official counts. We don't have the official death count, only presumptions. We don't have the official cause, only presumptions at this point. But I do think it's interesting that a lot of the headlines, even with so much uncertainty, like the big headline is like no survivors, you know? No survivors expected. I just went to dailymail.com and the first words I read, no survivors expected. And Air India, AI, Air India,
Yeah.
that's AI. Air India Boeing jet disaster as experts reveal possible cause of crash that killed 244. And I was reading a little bit about the Boeing side of things. Again, you mentioned that this is, you know, a never before seen incident. Quote, you know,
Is it a build up from how many plane crashes there's been in the last couple of years, really? Now there was
yeah.
never any, and then now there's loads, but they're like building up. Now they've gone to the safest one.
You know, and this is interesting because there was a Boeing whistleblower. I think it was either a year ago or 2 years ago. With time whizzing by, it's hard to really put a pin in when things are happening. But there was a Boeing whistleblower when all this stuff started happening with the Boeing jets. When the door flew off, back when that story was that Air Japan. I can't remember, but that was the story when they were talking about how it's really important to leave your baggage behind, which I think is the takeaway, which is a great lesson in or out of aviation. Leave our baggage behind. It's the only way to escape. But there was a whistleblower who was talking about specifically the Dreamliner aircraft, and he was saying that there are some problems that are going to be arisen, and he was talking about the manufacturing process, how it's very piecemeal, how there's so many different parties. One piece is manufactured by this company over here, and another piece is manufactured by this company over here, and then these pieces are put together by this construction company over here, and then the rest of it's put together by another company. And it just reminded me of what we've talked about, like with NASA and Disney animation and all these processes being so siloed. It sets things up for a few. It basically sets things up to where no one individual has a full picture of exactly how something comes together. And kind of that was like what the whistleblower was saying, is like, we have no clarity, once the things leave our portion of the plant and go off to God knows where, something else happens. And we have there's no like QA check on the finished product from anyone, and there's not like one party who's responsible. Now this does a lot to, let's say, expand the blame, cast a wide net over the blame. There's not one party to be blamed if something does go wrong. But also, I think from this lens, from how we have been looking at it, it's just so there's no one individual who has clarity on how things get put together whatsoever. The person, we talk about it with NASA all the time, like there's one department, running the numbers, and then they send it off to another department who then checks those numbers. Meanwhile, nobody's asking where the numbers actually came from. Everyone's just quote unquote doing their job and sending it off to the next party. And everybody at the end of the day thinks what they're doing equals to space travel, or sending rockets but none of that really mattered. None of it really means anything. And I think that the aircraft manufacturing process is also very, very, very siloed, to where not one group or individual has a real picture on, what's going on.
So, like, how do you think, they would say that this plane now, like, it's coming to Gatwick, so it's coming to London, yeah?
So they say.
How would you explain? Yeah, well, it would be, how would they fake that, right? So, it would be one of those, wouldn't it, where the tickets were all sold out for that flight. So It was a real flight.
Yeah.
It was on the list to fly
a real
in.
manifest, a manufactured manifest, but a real flight. Like, if for all intents and purposes, it looks like,
you could look at it online or anything to try and book it, and it was sold out. Yeah.
Which Flight Tracker and those flight tracking services have also been woven into all of these stories as like, it was followed on Flight Tracker for a few minutes after takeoff, and then and it's like, as if that makes it real, as if we need that element to make it real. And it does. It makes it seem real for any any interested party who's like, let me track it. I saw the blip on the screen.
It was on the screen in the airport as well. That it would have been on the flight screens on the airport.
Right. Sold out. Oh, sorry. You wanna go to Gatwick today? So not today, Buster. That flight is sold out. And then everybody who like missed the flight is like, oh, thank God, I was almost on that flight. But it was sold out.
Yeah, but it was sold out.
Yeah. I bet soon we're going to get like
a
a slew of celebrities, just like 9/11. I was meant to be on the flight, and then I overslept. I was meant to be on the flight. But yeah, remember, oh God, just if I had $1 for all the celebrities that were meant to be on those 9/11 flights.
There has been a lot of plane incidents over the last couple of years, hasn't there? Now it's just building up and up to something else.
It's building up and up, but I think everything about these aviation crashes, there's something to learn about the world around us. And one common thread that I keep seeing in this particular story is an explanation on what might have gone wrong, and it all involves lift, the gravity-defying phenomenon of lift. That is what keeps an aircraft in the air. And the wings are shaped such that they're as the plane goes faster, as flow increases, pressure decreases, and there's like this magical elemental, there's like a phenomenon for this. There's actually a name of the phenomenon. I don't have it handy, but if you guys want to look up lift, there's actually like a phenomena that's associated with it. And it creates this, it's literally called a gravity defying force. And that is what gets airplanes in the sky. That is what keeps airplanes in the sky, not jet fuel. Not jet fuel.
If you watch the video of this one going down, the explosion in the black smoke, feel like that's what
Fireball. Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
they're calling it a ball of fire. They're calling it a ball of fire. And
It basically
the sound of a
lands
blast,
over the brow of like some trees, so you can't really
Yep.
see where it's landing.
That's exactly what the story's all. And I'm going from story to story to story, publication to publication to publication, and you'll see these little commonalities. And one of the commonalities is the plane disappeared. The plane disappears over the eye line. What a tree lined whatever. It goes past the trees into some residential neighborhood. That's a big part of the story. Is it impacted? It crashed into this like medical college of some sort. I've read medical hostel, which seems different than a medical college, but all these terminologies are whatever. But it disappears, and then you see it disappears, and then you hear the blast, the sound of the blast, and you see the ball of fire. And that is what they do in all of these war stories too. When these countries begin to fight with one another, what do you see? You hear the loud bing boom. You see the ball of fire off in the distance. You see the smoke billowing off in the distance. And that is enough to make you go, oh, what a great tragedy. Something tragic has unfolded before me. And that's I've seen the word tragic and tragedy used in quotes in relation to this story. And I'm like, that's a weird, a great tragedy. And they're putting it in quotes. I'm like, that seems
a global tragedy. I see.
Yeah.
That's
and
words I see.
I don't know how many other words fall into this, but tragic and magic are awfully close. I wonder what agic, I wonder what that suffix, if that's even a suffix, but tragic and magic.
Do you know what I keep seeing a lot of as well? The LA riots. Have you seen them? It reminds me of that.
Tragedy comes from the word goat. Tragic, its etymology is goat. So that's something. That's something to put in our little caps. Oh, the LA riots.
They're seeing a lot of that, but it reminds me of like those 2020 days with like, is it Portland riots? It was like, it just looks like kind of, for me, right, it's the fiery cars that always, how they get so, not that they're on fire, right?
Yeah.
If you look, they're just smashed to bits like they've been through, like they're out the dump yard, the car dump yard. That's what they look like they've been through. But there was a video going around, right, with this news reporter woman. So she's like news reporting, right, in front of them, and a policeman in the background. But as she's talking, she's like backing up, like she's ready for something, right? And then the policeman out of nowhere turns around and shoots her with a rubber bullet.
What?
It's a funny video. Yeah, so he shoots her, right, with a rubber bullet for no reason. But he aims at her, but it was more so that she was ready for it. And I think she did get shot with some sort of, because like showing him what happened to her after. I think she did get shot with it because it is only, but not a full power one, but enough to leave a mark.
Was she wiling out? Like, what was she doing? What was she doing?
The camera cut off.
Oh, of course it did. Of course.
Turn around and he watch him in a line. It's like she's reporting, and he turns and aims at her in the background and shoots her.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of out to lunch on these riots. It's okay. So it's all about Trump's big, beautiful bill, right? The immigration policies packed into this big, beautiful bill. The reason behind the warring. I don't even think we've talked about Trump and Elon breaking up. I think it's been a minute since we've connected.
So saying Trump is bringing the military on the streets, so like the martial law, in for the riots.
Yes, and apparently this is controversial because, these cities and their mayors are kind of like little fiefdoms. Same thing with like sheriff's departments. They're all kind of independent and outside of the federal government. And the federal government cannot come in. So they say, like the FBI can't come in and assist a case unless these individual fiefdoms, unless the sheriff's department of a city allows for it. So there can be no federal activity without the explicit approval from a city governance. And same thing for this type of thing, sending in the National Guard, a federal action typically requires the approval of the city government, of the mayor. So for crimes and stuff, it's the sheriff's department. For this, it would be the mayor. And apparently Trump sent them in with no approval from that comic book character who's in charge of California, Gavin Newsom. He truly looks like a comic villain. It's insane how caricature-esque his face appears, villain-like, laughing all the way. But it's apparently Trump crossed a big line with sending, and again, all of these are just actions on a game board, but also that kind of teaches a little bit about a difference between the federal government and the states' rights and cities' powers and blah, 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 blah. And the federal government really theoretically has no power unless it's asked upon. It's almost like a genie in a lamp. Like you have to ask for its command, I don't know. There's something to be kind of gleaned from how these things get triggered and how these things work. But I mean, I guess it's just over, Los Angeles has a very storied history with protesting over racial injustice issues. The 1992 riots, that had a lot to do with kind of this injustice of a people, very, very racially motivated, back then, kind of the same thing. The National Guard got sent in 1992. That was over Rodney King. So that's what triggered those riots. And this one, I'm not even 100% sure what really triggered it.
Other than like it was already going off. Yeah.
I mean,
it was kept coming up for days.
They're saying immigration. Riots. They're saying immigration. It's like an ICE, these ICE raids and Trump's hotly anti-immigrant stance these days. But all of these maneuvers are just meant to rile us up, just to rile us up. And it's not connected, but something that I was reading a lot with the plane crash, the Air India plane crash, is that now the cities are on high alert. The city where the plane took off is on quote unquote high alert. I kept reading that phrase, high alert. And high alert is a phraseology for when something's about to happen and you're on high alert, like something's about to happen. People need to be on high alert for a storm, or, it's like, it's interesting. It's interesting to be on high alert after, to be on high alert in the aftermath. It again, it kind of struck me as like something to keep note of. And I feel like there is a level of high alert right now within the USA. Like there's like just like with the George Floyd riots, like when riots start spilling over, whether they are true or wholly manufactured, there's still like a bubbling up within the people. There's still like a heightening effect. And I do feel like there is a heightened alert status right now. There feels to be, it's getting to be summer. Things are heating up. It feels like the temperature is rising with some of these psyops and stories. And I think we're in for a hot summer. I think we're in for a real, and it's not just the fireball in the distance, Rambo. It's not just heat from that fiery blast just over the tree line where we can't see what's happening. There's just
you need to watch the video. It just looks like it's just having a gentle landing.
Yeah. And from everything that I've seen, it's not like they're describing it's I'm just, nobody's describing this like scary, it's like just sinking, like la da da, like kind of just sinking down. And, it would be kind of interesting if they blame it on birds, another Sully Sullenberger. What was that? The Miracle on the Hudson, where like geese decimated the nose cone and completely took down an aircraft. And it's like geese can do that. I mean, if you look at the pictures of Sully's of his plane after like intercepting a few geese, which what they could weigh, geese weigh what? 20 pounds wet? Like who knows? Geese are not formidable structures by any means, and yet they completely destroyed the plane. And yet we're supposed to believe these jetliners rammed into steel enforced buildings on 9/11 and took those suckers down? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not buying it. I'm buying it. And today's the anniversary randomly of an old, well, I'm not even really sure how to, I need to look at it with fresh eyes, but the Pulse nightclub shooting. Shout out to Auntie Kovia. She's one of our newer Patreons, and she's actually from the Rise Above world. So shout out, hey, Auntie Kovia. She shared on the Realize Radio Discord earlier today about it being the anniversary, June 12th being the anniversary. And I think it was 2016. Hold on. Pulse, I'm going to get my date right. Pulse nightclub. Yeah, 2016. So this was, many years before I had eyes to see. And she had posted a kind of a remembrance because it's the anniversary, and it was just a collage of all of these faces and she said, she mentioned me, and she said, how do these faces look to you? And there was one face that looked like straight out of Game Theft Auto, but a lot of them looked pretty good. Like they didn't ping Uncanny Valley. And so and then of course, I had to go look into the Pulse shooting to see what I saw, to see if there were any little winks and sinks. And there's actually a couple. One little just wink that I want to share was, okay, so I kept noting how many of the news articles about the shooting were talking about how complex the interior of the nightclub. Okay, so long story short, the Pulse nightclub shooting, it's a gay club, woo woo party, and it got shot up by an anti-gay. He was, I think he was Muslim, but he was,
Omar Mateen.
Omar Mateen, he went in and he just shot him up. It was the deadliest terror attack since the 2001 attack, so bringing it back to 9/11. And that's how it was described in the news at that time, was the deadliest attack since 2001 terror attack. But I kept noting how the news stories kept talking about how complex the interior of the club was, and something about it just made me think of like a maze or a labyrinth. And I was like, let me look up labyrinth in connection to the Pulse nightclub. And turns out there was a memorial in Orlando. This is where it all went down in Orlando. There's a memorial dedicated to the Pulse nightclub shooting. And guess what the memorial is? It's a labyrinth. It's a labyrinth, like a maze you walk through. The memorial to this place. It's something about that. Like just like my first whiff of like, oh, complex interior. That sounds kind of labyrinthian. Let me see if there's any connections to labyrinths and Pulse. And sure enough, that's literally the shape of the memorial. Like first hit, there was like direct fire, direct hit. And, in the first little whiff of something. But it also made me think, just the share that Antikovia had, the pictures, a lot of the images, a lot of the faces, they just looked like normal faces off social media. They except for one, which looked straight off Game Theft Auto's, like its art form. Like the skin looked very video game like. The rest of them looked pretty good. And it made me kind of think about thispersondoesnotexist.com. I've talked ad nauseum to the cows come home till I turn blue about how beneficial thispersondoesnotexist.com is for training us in spotting computer generated faces. I'm kind of questioning that now. I mean, surely it does for those hyper anomalous, the ones where like the ears, God knows
Yeah.
where, and you start to really notice these very strange aberrations and anomalies within the photos. But I think that that's a trap. I think that that's a trap to make us think that the only way, that all the generated faces have extreme anomalies and all the generated faces are going to trigger uncanny valley. I don't think that's true. I think that a picture perfect face, meaning one that bypasses all the uncanny valley bells, one that, tiptoes over all of our intrinsic alarms to spot these types of things. I think that
Doable.
it's very doable
Definitely.
and always has been. And we're being tricked by thinking that this is the best a machine can do. See that? See that strange effect in the background? See that random elbow that's hanging out and shouldn't be there in the image? See that, the horrific effect on the teeth? And that's kind of what you get with this person does not exist.com. You get some really visible and sometimes ghoulish
Yeah, there's
and
no reason why you're not looking at one that is like giving out some sort of consciousness feeling to you, do you know?
yeah, I think that anything can be rendered as lifelike as it seems to us. And and we're constantly being trained. We're constantly, even this person does not exist.com, on one level one, kind of training us to spot fake faces. The level two, the more important level, is training us to think that this is what fake faces look like.
Yeah.
You know, there's a real, we talk about 4D chess. There's some 4D chess. There's another game being operated on all of these things we discuss. And I'm actually really thankful for this kind of I don't think I've scrutinized this person does not exist in this way until Anti-Covert shared that on the Discord. That was one of the first things I thought was, other than this face that looks really outlandish, the rest of them look pretty good. And that's really making me question some of these resources that we've been, quote unquote, given.
Is that their faces?
Yeah.
Discord.
Yeah. I think it was under psyops and hoax in the psyops and hoax category. Yeah.
So I seen it on Wikipedia, like it says, some of the people, this is just about that nightclub, initially thought the gunshots were firecrackers or music.
Did you see the pop 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 pop? Yep. That's always in the news articles, the pop pop popping sound. And who knows if anybody, I need to do, before I can really speak on that element of it, I need to do more digging on the pulse, but there's ways to pull this off where people were actually there, just like the Vegas shooting. People were actually there. It doesn't mean anybody died, but there's enough theatrics, the pop pop pop, the chaos ensuing, the immediate police presence. All of these things make it feel real. And I have a feeling, I mean, it could have been a real, kicking night down at the Pulse nightclub. Everybody had their little hot pants on, dancing their dances, and then all of a sudden you hear some pop pop pops and chaos ensues. Then the next day, it's all in the news, people dead. You were, barricading yourself inside this complex labyrinth of a club. And again, the complex labyrinthian, the people dying were happening over here in this chamber over here that was away from everything, and you could have been on the other side of the club perfectly safe. I mean, everybody was perfectly safe. I'm assuming it was just, a matter of thinking that the violence is taking place elsewhere. Same thing with all these active shooter drills in schools, or the active shooter situations, quote unquote, in
Yeah.
schools, where, kids are barricaded in their classroom, they see something in the hallway or hear a bang, bang, bang in the hallway. That's all you need. That's all you need. And then you survived your active shooter. Oh, that's one thing that came out of the Pulse nightclub was Facebook's marked safe option, marked safe from the Pulse nightclub shooting. That was something to come out of that event, was the marked safe element, which that goes to that little button that you can click. I'm marked safe from the Pulse nightclub incident. I live in Orlando and I'm safe. It makes you, if you click that button saying marked safe, that makes you as an individual feel like the whole thing was real. Because if you're marking safe, then in your mind, like someone else is not
Not
safe,
safe.
not safe, And and then and that also, in 2016, social media, it's hard to think of how social media
Even
operated.
was then, yeah.
Right. And it really was in its infancy for this type of social sharing, for news to be traveling through, or for people to be getting their news and updates from social media. I feel like that was a time where there was a shift, a
Yeah,
turning. Yeah.
yeah. That is more accessible one. It
Yeah.
became where
And then it
that's
becomes
all
more
it really
real
is.
when it's shared through social media. We've talked about that millions of times, but when things are shared through socials, it feels more legitimate. It feels more real than if news is just flowing through the traditional media channels, traditional news channels, because you feel like you're getting a first person. You feel like you're getting, eyewitness. You feel like you're getting the real deal when it comes from a normal person, a real guy sharing on his Facebook and must be real, but it's just another way to filter these stories. It's like a whitewashing, you can kind of wash the stank of manufacturing off these stories if you can filter them through a social media channel, because it feels more legitimate, it feels more authentic, it feels more real. So there's something to that. And pulse is an interesting word. I mean, it's got, our heartbeat, or the pulse of our hearts. And at the center of that memorial is like a shattered heart. The labyrinth, in the center of the labyrinth is a shattered heart. Something about that I'm brewing, but it's just bubbling up. I'm not ready to share. But I think, pulse also is a form of communication, and radar systems, in satellite systems, or general radio communication signals. Pulses are forms of communication. It's a message. It's a coded message. A pulse is a data packet, and I'm kind of trying to, as I if I wade into this story further, I'm gonna be looking at it from, like, what are the packaged messages that are
'Cause it
being.
wasn't what I'd heard of before.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal for. It was, I mean, kind of a big deal. It was. How many people did they say died in the Pulse? In the Pulse. What? Let's see. Pulse nightclub. Oh boy, I have too many windows open. Pulse nightclub deaths. Nightclub deaths. 49 people and wounded 53 more in a mass shooting at Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida. The
Isn't
vast
that weird?
majority
That
of
I know
them.
it doesn't mean anything, but what are the chances there? So we were talking about the plane crash, and that was 53
Ooh.
English, and then now there's another 53 again in the next story we talk about.
Okay,
I've
Rambo.
I've
That's a
picked
little
that.
connection across space and time. That's interesting.
And it's how with the 53 wounded, but then further down,
Yeah.
it says 53 killed by gunfire. Oh, yeah, injured by gunfire.
Yeah.
Another
And
53,
even
yeah.
more kind of gut wrenching. I, God, I mean, it's kind of gruesome, but a lot of the stories were also talking about how the SWAT team who arrived, they were just like blasting through these concrete walls. And that's another thing. The Pulse nightclub was like walled off. Again, closed set. Can't be nothing. There was a concrete wall barricade in front of the entire club. So can't nothing can be really seen from the outside, you know what I mean? So closed set vibes right there. But also how the SWAT team was just shooting through the walls indiscriminately trying to get the assailant, and how it was actually the SWAT team that inflicted gunshot wounds on many of the bodies. You know, it was
Is that what it
actually this.
says?
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, talk about insult to injury, but it's like that would be how horrific. Like if you believe this to be true, and then you're reading about the aftermath, and you're reading that, oh my God, it was actually the officials that, you know, it's like they don't care about gay people at all. They're just shooting through them to get to the assailant, you know, and yeah, just very kind of tragic all the way through. Now I can't say tragic without thinking of goat, but
Another story as well. Maddie in it. They're still looking for Maddie, right? And they're saying now the news today is they found the gun, but
oh,
also
what?
also in the same thing
Let
is
her
her
rest.
brother. Her brother is in the news now,
Okay.
tipped to be in the Olympics next year. And they've
Oh.
used a t-shirt of him, right, in a navy blue t-shirt, like Maddie's t-shirt, like for the eye. Can you see
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Like Maddie's
Her
Everton
little
sock.
kit. Yeah, the little soccer kit that she was wearing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But that then, really, if he's in the Olympics, they'll probably make a star of him, and then she's always in the mind.
Yeah. Oh,
It'll be
definitely. Because you know that that's all that's going to be. Okay, so he's a swimmer. Yeah, a
yeah.
swimmer. So that's what he's going to do. Oh, and he has a twin sister, Amelie, and they're both on track to become high performance athletes. Interesting. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting little aside. And I think you're exactly right. He's gonna be kind of I'm looking at these baby pictures, and he looks just like his sister. Like,
Was he one of the twins that were in the room then?
yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's him. So they were left. The twin babies were left, and Maddie was snatched. She didn't exist at all, but that's how the story goes. That's classic HP saying she didn't exist. Oh, broken record over there. But yeah, I don't think that, and maybe these two do exist. Maybe, there were
But
siblings.
could they be made to believe that they did have a sister?
Oh
Wouldn't
yeah,
they?
because they
If
wouldn't have known. Yeah,
yeah, they wouldn't
they
have
were just
knew.
babies. They're just babies. You could make that up. Yeah. Yes. Fake siblings. I actually this is a super random story, but I actually went to high school with a girl, and I think she has a made up brother who died in the war.
Yeah, I remember you saying, yeah.
Yeah. I think I might have cut it out. We recorded it in like the first season, in season one, which actually I went back and I'm re-listening to season one, the glory days. Oh man, God, those were the days. Oh my God. We were so new to all this, and so just zestful. We were just so zestful, and all of this was brand new, and it was such a treat to listen to that over the past couple of days. I've just been making my way through some of the earlier episodes. Um, it was just like a walk down memory lane. I forgot what I was going to say after that. I got sidetracked by
So
my own.
Maddie have fake siblings.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The girl I went to high school with. So yeah, there was never a mission, never, ever, 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 ever a mention of this brother who was apparently a war hero, died died in Afghanistan. There was never a mention of him until many years later. There's like that's all she posts about is this brother who died. Their family got one of those gold star families where they get this big payout. There's a war fund in his name. There's like a fund for something in his name. I There's something very theatrical about this family. There's some I kind of feel like there's some fake families. There's some
It's
you know
NPCs. Is that what
something
you'd call them, or what is that what you'd say?
something. I haven't been able to wrap my brain
Your bot?
around it, but I feel like there is a false, yeah, I feel like there's a completely made up sibling and a completely made up story and something to, yeah, I'm not really able to go deeper into details, but I have some real suspicions about the town I graduated high school from and some families that moved there. And it was just one of those sleepy little towns. And I feel like it was the perfect backdrop for some future psyops. Um, Anywho, but yeah, to make up a sibling for Jerry and what's the mom's name? Jerry and something McCann.
Kate.
Kate and Jerry, for Kate and Jerry, to just convince these, if you just grow up with a story, who you would never question that story. They've got a few photos, manufactured photos, but that's enough to suffice. And there'd be no there'd be no way to kind of unravel yourself unless you yeah, unless you were capable of asking some taking a big step back and asking some big questions. But why would you need to? Like why would you even think to question this story? Um, and we all know this. Like whatever your parents tell you, that's the truth.
Yeah, it's
Like
true.
that's just the truth. And until you're a little bit older and you maybe see how other people live or, go out and live on your own, you're like, wait a second. That's just the way my family was, or. So it's kind of interesting that idea of shaping the minds of a child just through the repetition of story. And they'll grow up believing and they'll literally never have a reason to question. Yeah. Yeah. Ish. I
It's
grew up with a lot of stories in my household and I guess
like
now
you say, you
I'm
don't, you
starting to
can't, you
question.
don't even think to question it. So, like, if
Mm-mm.
you were to tell them, like, yeah, that was your sister,
Yeah.
that's the end of that.
So you said there's a gun found?
So it says on here, yeah, it's been coming up today.
Okay, what does it say? Gun found in new Madeleine McCann search has not been ruled out as a game changer. Game changer. Again, a lot of game words. A lot of game. This is some sort of game. Oh my God. And Matt, talking about this person does not exist and like weird anomalies in the picture in the background. That picture of Maddie with her Everton kit on, it looks entirely
But
unreal.
isn't it weird how they put the brother in the exact same color?
Yeah. And do you think that's just to trigger memory
Like some,
association?
no, I think it's some sort of magic spell somehow. Like they're using color to like
Oh, yeah.
make you kind of feel like I don't know. It's doing something. It's like a spell. It feels to me that how they're in the
Yeah.
exact same blue.
And it's in that particular shade of blue.
And
We
they
talk
used
about,
those pictures though. All the other pictures. That was one of the main pictures they used as a but to put him in the same one right directly underneath.
that's it's blue screen blue. We talk a lot about green screen and movie magic with green screen technology, but in the biz, the real effects, like the high powered, even more kind of show stopping special effects, those take place on a blue screen, not a green screen.
If
Green screen's great for
if
just like keying out stuff, but
on
it's
this
kind of limited.
site, there's three pictures of him in the list, and he's in blue in all of them.
I'm looking at this
Blue
news
as a
article.
baby,
Hmm.
blue as like a bit older. It's like it's in blue all the way through.
And I'm looking at a Daily Mail article about the gunman, about this guy, the Christian Bruckner, who was one of the suspects on that, and he looks like a little weasel. His phenotype and his facial morphology is like truly like pedophilic. If you were to ask ChatGPT to conjure a pedophile, that's literally what it would sign up. But he's carrying a blue folder, that exact color, like his courtroom imagery. He's just in his hand, in his little handcuffed hands. They're handcuffed in front of his body, and in his little hands, his Weasley little hands, he's got a blue folder, that exact color. Blue. Why is
Yeah,
the
that royal
sky
blue
blue?
in their story, isn't it?
Yeah. It's something there. In blue, we have out of the blue, there's something about, and you mentioned magic. Yeah, I do feel like this
It's some
particular
sort of
shade of
like, is it
blue.
color magic or something?
Hmm.
Why it's being used? Maybe it like softens something or gives you that feeling of something missing or something like that.
Yeah. It's the same color. This has been in our faces for a minute, but like the Blue Origin, like Jeff Bezos, his aircraft when I went up to
Yeah, the
space with Katy Perry.
blue.
Yeah, that particular, it's the same shade. And I think that Blue Origin logo hex value, I think it has a 33 in there. What was it? Let's see. Something about it. I need to look that up. I shared it on Discord. Shout out Discord. Also, like just as in general, it's just such a cool ecosphere. Let's see. What was Blue Origin's hex value? Yes. Okay. So the color value of the Blue Origin logo has a sneaky 33 built into the hex value, and hex value is like this, usually a 6-digit code, and it's like web ready values, but it's hex, like magic, HEX, like a hex that you put on
Yeah,
someone.
a hex.
Yep.
Like a
But
spell.
the blue, and it's this royal blue. It's a very specific shade of blue, and its hex value is 0033DD.
Yeah. So it's
0033DD.
got it in there.
You just got that 33 built in. That's right. It's gots to. Yeah. Something. They think they're so sneaky. But yeah.
Did you see as well another one that was quite funny? I thought is the Meghan and Harry thing the other day. People were sending me this, like family members, like, look how
What?
fake this is,
Oh, when they were dancing and she was like getting low.
announcing the pregnancy. But if you look, it's not. But it's like a load of bundle of clothes shoved up the
It's
top.
so lumpy bumpy. Yeah. Like, what is she pregnant with? A Lego? Like, what is going
Yeah,
on
just all
under
the dirty
there?
washing.
Yeah. But, I think and so many people are calling out fake, fake. It looks fake. Look how fake her bump looks. But I mean, it's
Still
it's being done on
believing them.
purpose. It's
It baffles me how like I can get sent that from somebody who I know, and then they'll just next week they'll tell me, oh, if what they've done. Or
yeah,
say, let's say they was to get assassinated or something, they'd believe it. But
yeah.
like if they're lying, like, do you know what I mean? For
That
me, it's just
whole
obvious.
I do feel like there's going to it's been a little quiet on the royal front lately. Charles with his cancer scare and all that stuff, and I feel like we are due a turnover. I feel like we are due Charles exit stage left. I feel like there's going to be a big shakeup in the very near future.
United the other day, United Sadiq Khan as a sir. So that was they were talking about that, but Sadiq Khan was what they say was he like a solicitor for the 9/11 terrorist?
Mm. Okay. And so what was he doing? He was at a
So
game or
he's the
something?
mayor of London and he got knighted
Oh.
by Charles, but then Sadiq Khan links back to being a solicitor for the 9/11 terrorist.
Hmm. Didn't Princess Diana have a friend whose last name was Khan? Jemima Khan or something Khan? I
Who's
don't know
called
if they're
Sadiq Khan, London mayor.
okay. Sadiq Khan. Oh, I'm thinking of Hasnat Khan, um, this this doctor that Princess Diana was rumored to have dated after the divorce. I don't know why Princess Diana's on my brain right now. I guess she's always on my brain, Lady Di. But the London, yeah, so the London mayor, he's knighted, a sir.
Got knighted the other day, yeah, but he's one of them who is like where people are wondering how he's in, where they can't work out that the voting's not real. Like
And did he
nobody
come out of
likes him.
nowhere? Was it one of those? Or
It's been going for years,
mm.
but he's been like the mayor for a long time, and that's
Explain to me, I feel like I know this, but I feel like maybe I don't. Okay, so there's London, and then there's the city of London, which is just a small little epicenter in the financial district. Is that right? Is
yeah.
that?
So London's huge, but yeah, there's like a city in the middle, yeah.
And if you're mayor of London, are you mayor of the big London or are you mayor of the little city of London? I don't
What
know.
was that? If I'm the
Like if you're
Yeah, so he's
mayor
the mayor of all of
okay,
London,
of all of
the
London.
whole of London. But there was a link to him to 9/11. Yeah, Sadiq's former law firm did consult on the defense of someone convicted in relation to 9/11.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, that makes it, that to have like this little twist gives like a little whiff of, you know, tragedy
So they
and
link him back all the way
conspiracy
to
and
then.
yeah. Well, that goes, I mean, is this a hearkening of the shallow pool element of it all?
Yeah, that
Like,
there's not many really doing all the work, like the
right,
characters we see.
right. And something, oh, God, I'm getting a ping, but I feel like this happened in the kind of dead zone of the last couple of days, but wasn't there? Oh, yes. Okay. So the Pearl Street, there was an incident, like a mass tragedy incident on Pearl Street in Boulder recently, and like the sergeant in charge of this area, he was also involved in Columbine, of course, also involved in the Aurora shooting, of course. And so it's like, I don't know, these characters exist within a very specific lane, a channel, like the tragedy channel is all they can
Yeah,
surf on, you know? And I mean, that's completely unrelated to what you just said, but like, of course, this mayor has this backstory that connects deeply to tragedy. I feel like that's a little bit of a hallmark. And of course, he's, front and center. And I don't know, I feel like there's something about this shallow shared pool we are sinking
they've done all the
in.
old theatrics with the sword on each thing and stuff. But anyone who's knighted is it's like they're knighted for other reasons, like that to like
One day you're
ruin
going to be knighted,
everyone.
Rambo.
A
So,
great,
Rambo.
a great the deceiver. Like that's what they're kind of knighted for, like playing a good role of
Okay, you're
a
not going to get knighted for that. You're going to get knighted for the real
of
one.
like a. Do you know what I mean? That's what I
Yeah.
feel like it is. Like when it says "sir," I think that's
Yeah.
what it means. Like they're just like good at being an actor.
Yeah, I feel you there. It's like have been tasked and charged with the
Yeah, and
very
you
important
completed it. You
job.
are now known as Sir by these peasants. Look what we've got. I'm saying.
Peasants. Sir. Sir is an interesting word. And whenever I hear sir, I think of SUR, which is like
Sir.
what is the Spanish word for sir? It's south. But I think of Big Sur, which is like an area in California, which is like noted for their waves and their surfing. But okay, sir in American English, it means over or above or in addition to. The French word sir is on top or on top of. So yeah, like oh, that's kind of interesting. So sur in French means on top of, sur in Mexico, sur in Spanish means south, which and sometimes we think of like north being above and south being below. So it's kind of like an opposite, on top and below, north and south. I am reaching right now. I am doing I'm doing some very important stretching exercises at the moment, as you guys might be able to tell. I am reaching a little far for some connections at the moment. But sometimes that's what we do. Um, this is random. I've been watching a lot of random shows, and this is not an endorsement of this movie. I just happened to put it on because I've been hearing about it. But it's this movie. I think it's Apple TV, but it's called Mountainhead. It's about all these billionaires that get trapped in some sort of rich person's lair, and this catastrophe is happening around the world. And it's kind of interesting because it talks all about like fake media filtering through social channels, and all content wise, there's a lot to sink your teeth into connected to things that we explore and kind of coming to a head with all this fakery. What happens when the public believes all this fakery. They believe that the things are on fire, they believe the riots are happening, these false narratives with real fallout and real consequences. That's kind of the crux of the movie. So subject matter wise, there's something very juicy theoretically, but it's just a bad movie. But I did hear two references to something that I've been obsessed with on the Realize Radio Discord, and that is the concept of a great turning. The great turning. Now, this is not a phrase that you hear every day. It's not a popular or common phrase. Let me read you what the actual definition of the great turning is. And if you're on Discord, go ahead and just search Discord, because there are so many references to it, to a great turning. Okay, so it refers to a significant societal shift. And it's kind of been seen in like the view of like the Industrial Revolution, how it completely changed the worldviews and values of the civilization and how humans lived and worked. And so that was like a great turning of our recent past. But I think it's more like I think it's more of like, there's something deeper with the idea of a great turning, and I've been sharing a lot about it on the Discord and what I think it means and little hints and things. Okay, blah, 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 blah. So this movie references just casually in dialogue, which felt very wedged in. It referenced the great turning or a great turning twice, two separate times. And I was like, that's not really like a fret, like that's not really a colloquialism. It felt pointedly wedged in. It felt like, sometimes we joke that like Black Mirror is sometimes taking from our subject matter that we discuss here on the show and creating content from it. This was a direct hit. The great turning is so specific, so random. Again, just look on Discord.
That's something you hear every day, is it really?
It's not really a phrase that we hear. It's not really, but for some reason, I've been tickled by it for over a year now, sharing, I clocked like 10 different times I've brought it up on the Realize Radio Discord. I collected all those little references and shared it with this on the Watch Party channel, just because it was, it just feels like dialogue from these shows is coming from us, and it's like innocuous, and it feels wedged in, and it feels like it's not even meant to be there, but it has to be there, just something about it felt very wedged in and purpose, like not elegantly. It was like shoved into the dialogue, and twice, not once, but twice. And they didn't even really explain it. I don't know. It felt.
It's like the simulation or whatever it is. You just put it in there because it's a word that's on your mind.
Yeah, I had a few of these instances as well when I was watching Landman. Just a few little pings where I'm like, what did they just say? That doesn't even fit. Like it doesn't even make sense in the context of the scene. Why are they talking about that? Why are they saying these words? Yeah, that's been happening kind of more and more. But I do feel this is not a new concept for, this show is, we're influencing this place. I think that That's the big secret, is we have far more influence over this realm than vice versa. And, we've just been positioned over a lifetime to think that we're kind of powerless and, we're just waiting to be rescued, by Big Daddy Trump or whatever savior's coming in. They're all false. Again, yeah, it's all just false narratives to keep us kind of locked into this idea that we are helpless without help, and that we have no utility ourselves. Forget about collectively, because we're just powerless. So if you put powerless entities together, they're even more powerless. But the opposite couldn't be more true. I think individually we are pretty damn powerful, and then collectively we're damn near unstoppable. Not damn near, we are an unstoppable force if we were to unite. But I think all this silly shit, all these distractions and everything,
It's a
it's
grand
keeping
turning.
us, yeah, well, it's keeping us from ever
From
uniting, it's keeping
Yeah,
us from
definitely.
ever
Just that a
coming
new
together.
division line seems to go in every day, doesn't it? Really, that'd
Right.
be something.
A new fault line, a ridge that, like these tectonic plates underneath our society that move and shift and create these ridges that can't be traversed. There's a big, psychological mountain range that keeps, half the
Maybe it
population on
reaches a
one
point
side, half the population on the
where
other
it like
side.
has to recalibrate, and it gets that much, so it centers itself again. The turning
Ooh, like a
happens.
gyroscope recalibrating. Yeah, or
Yeah,
some sort of recalibration. Interesting. I do think, yeah, any system does have, any complex system will have calibration requirements and recalibration requirements. Um, and sometimes, things get a little wobbly before the recalibration. What if we're experiencing a grand recalibration right now? And that's
just
maybe
waiting
why
for that
things feel a
point
little
to.
bit more. That's why planes are sinking out of the sky.
Yeah, you have to watch that video. It's a perfect landing.
Just disappears right at the point that you'd want to see something. It goes bloop,
Yeah,
out of sight, out of sight. But you sure do see that massive fireball. You hear that loud crash bang, and the rest, as they say, is history. Well, Rainbow, it's
yeah,
great to connect.
yeah.
Again, thank you
But
guys for kind of ebbing and flowing with us. Sometimes
yeah, you're back in the room today. HV is
I'm
fully there, aren't
back.
you? You
She's
look,
back,
you look,
baby.
you
She
look
is
happy.
back.
Like, in
I've reached a
yourself.
point of gratitude. I've reached, I went through all the dark ones. I went through the extreme guilt. I went through, all the levels of grief. I'm, I'm gonna be, grief is a really long, extended process, and it doesn't start and stop in a traditional way. And I'll probably be, there'll be little things that catch my eye and, make me sad, and I'm, that's going to happen for perhaps for a lifetime if I'm lucky to, to carry her. That's a gift, to have those little moments where, you feel that profound missing and that profound loss. But I do feel like I have found my way back to dry land after being kind of pulled in by the undertow of emotion for 3 weeks. It's been all encompassing. I haven't been able to focus on it really anything other than like mindless work, because that is something I can do in robotic mode. I can just be an automaton and just perform, and lose myself in that performance. This stuff takes a little bit more presence. I can't do this when I'm checked out. It's
Yeah.
impossible. So, thank you guys for giving me a little bit of space to get my mind right. And I'm glad to, it does feel like it's been forever, Rambo.
It does, doesn't it?
It just feels, yeah. Because I have been checked out. It's been, because even before she went in the hospital, there was a low level alarm bell ringing, like because she was starting to get there was some alarm. There was some internal alarms going off, and it's been like a month that I've not been in the game. My head's not been in the game, and it feels good to be back.
Yeah, good to see you back.
Oh, you know who's back in the game? Eyes.
Yeah, I see you,
Yeah,
yeah.
shout out Eyes. He created all of our theme music for Realize Radio, and he was one of the main kind of cohorts back in 2020. We were all bumming around on Twitter, this little group, this little
Yeah,
gang of.
messaged him. I thought he was gone forever.
Yeah, he disappeared for a few years. I remember we had back channeled after he took some time off, and he just said he was, he was like, I'm just focusing on my real life at the moment. I kind of made it. I got everywhere I could with everything is fake, and now I want to turn, my focus and focus on my family, focus on, myself, just really kind of turn inward for a bit. And now he's back, and it's great to see. It's great to see him tweeting again, and I'll never not get a thrill when I listen to his theme music that he came up with. I just remember sending him my idea. Here's some, pieces that, here's kind of the vibe that I want. Here's a kind of a bass track that I want to work with. Let me see what you got. Yeah. And he hit a grand, I think. I love it. I love our theme music. And he made us a couple little interstitials and a few little beats, we don't really use them anymore, but like there's a music for if we go take a little break. And that's something too in season 1. We used to have like a little halftime, remember? We would take a little break, put some bed music in, and come back for a second portion of the recording. That was you know what? And I recommend that just if you're wanting something a little different, and maybe you haven't heard the first season of Realize Radio. Maybe you're, newer, and this is kind of like our current content is kind of where you've picked up. There is something really special and magical, dare I say, about season 1. Yeah. And some episodes of season 2, which were born from the Patreon. So season 2, the lines kind of get blurred between, season 2 is like absorbed kind of in the Patreon effort, but season 1 kind of as a standalone, as its own thing, as the foundation for everything that we're doing today. It's a little rough, but it is so special, and it's great. It's excellent. Like, I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
And shout out Murph. I miss what he brought to the table was, again, like lightning in a bottle. I think what we've been doing is excellent too, but there is just something about that Murph, and I love listening back. There was just something really, really indescribable. I'm at a loss for words, which is kind of rare. There's something very elemental and fundamental about that. Yeah, it made me smile. It because I was, Rainbow, between you and me, I was kind of losing steam. I mean, I was like, how do I get my groove back? Honestly, with this stuff, I was like, I've lost my I've lost my swerve. I've lost my
season 1 on.
Yeah, and there's something like a little whisper. I said, go back to the beginning. Go back to the beginning of how this all came together. Go back and revisit. And I'm so glad I did, because it's been a great comfort over the past. I think that's what got me out of my funk, really, was kind of going back and listening to the old days and all of the incredible connections that we're making. And that the old content, quote unquote, it's never been more relevant. Yeah, it's never been more relevant.
I've come back around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I don't know, if you're new and you're looking for something else, you want more, go back to season 1, and it's it's brand new. It may have been recorded many years ago, but it is just as new and prescient and relevant today as it was kind of back then. Yeah. Or if you just want to do a little trip down memory lane, it's special. All right. Well, Rambo, this was great. I'm glad we could connect, and we're back at it. We're back at it, y'all. Thanks, everyone.
Speak soon. Take care.